Sorry, got cut off there. Alright, so A is 8. Our P is 1x, but remember we have to write 1 as a decimal, so that would be 0.01. And our B is 80. So first thing we want to do is we can multiply 0.01 times 80, and we get 0.8x equals 8, and then divide both sides by 0.8. And we get 10 as our answer. Alright, so the next thing is the increase and decrease problems. And if we use A equals PB, a few things to remember. Our A is our difference between our beginning and end. So if we start out with 30, but we end up with 20, then the difference between would be 10. Our P is still our percent, and we're going to be looking for that. So just want to remember 0.01x. And then our B is where we're starting from. So again, using the example I just said, if we start with 30 and decrease to 20, our B would be 30 because that's where we're starting from. Alright, so our question says if 5 is increased to 9, the increase is what percent of the original number? So A, P, and B. So our A is our difference. So 9 take away 5 is 4. Our percent we don't know. And our B is where we start from. And we'll plug that into our formula. Our A is 4. Our P is 0.01. And if you don't do this, just remember to change it also at the end. Just move it over twice, and I can show you that too on the next one. So if we multiply these together, we get this. Divide by 0.05. So x is 4 divided by 0.05 is 80. So it's an 80% increase. So 100% increase would be this doubled, so it would have went to 10. So I was expecting something close to 100% because it's almost a double. And then let me kind of show you too, if you just leave this as an x, so let's say we just write it like this, and I don't change my 1 to 0.01. This is going to be 0.8, but then you remove your decimal after the fact. So you either move it before and make your 1x into 0.01x, or you just call your x 1 and then move it over twice when you get the answer. So somewhere you have to move your decimal over twice. That's the only way these A equals PB formulas will work. Alright, the next topic in homework 5 is writing sentences with the words. Alright, so it says the given sentence written as an equation is. Alright, so my biggest suggestion on this is you write it as you read it. And if there's more than one thing in the problem to do and it's too confusing for you, you can always start from the back and go to the front. The only time that it gets kind of sticky is if they are subtracting and they use the right words from and then you have to reverse the order. But in this case, they are saying subtraction, but they're not using from or than, so we can write this the way it is written. Also remember that when they say a number, that's another word for x. Alright, so 7 times a number. So 7 times this unknown number is equal to, that's easy, and then 64 decreased by the number. So we just wrote it. I've just read it and wrote it as I read it. And we don't have to solve this one, so we're just going to move on. Alright, so the product of 8 13s and a number increased by 6 is 3 less than a number. Alright, so another thing to remember is commas usually mean parentheses. So since we have the product of 8 13s and a number, comma, increased by 6, comma, that means somebody's got to be in parentheses. Also, we have that word than in there, which I told you if it came, we don't want to write it in the order that it's written. We want to flip-flop it. So let's start at the beginning. Product means multiply in math. So we're taking 8 13s and we're multiplying it by a number. The word and is where you would place whatever math word they use. So since it said product, that's where you're going to put your multiplication sign. If they said sum, that's where we would put our plus sign. So your and gives that away. So the product of 8 13 and a number. So we might write 8 13 times x like that. And then it says increased by 6. Now this one we don't really have to have parentheses around because order of operations is going to tell us to do product first. But the parentheses would be important if we wanted to let somebody know that we don't want to add first, we want to do the first one first. Alright, so increase by is another way of saying add. And is another math word for meaning equal. And then normally I would write 3 minus x, but because of the word than, we flip-flop it. And they put those commas in there too, just to kind of let you know that the increase by 6 goes with the number, but it is after that. So let's look at our next example. "11 times a number is 28 more than 4 times that number." So we're just going to read it and write it. 11 times a number. So 11 times this unknown number is 28 more than 4 times that number. 4 times that number. And yes, you can flip-flop these. We can add in any order and still get the same answer. So really all I'm doing is reading it and writing it as I go. subtracted from the product of 5 and a number is 66. So read it and write it. Talking subtraction though, and use the word from, so that means instead of doing 4 take away something, we're going to do something take away 4. So 4 subtracted from the product of 5 and a number. So product of 5 and a number means 5x. And then we're going to subtract that 4 from it. Is, and then we've got 66. Alright, so this one we see quite often. And I even think I remember seeing it on your tests. Alright, so they want us to find the page numbers. Alright, so the left and right page numbers of an open book are two consecutive integers whose sum is 79. So consecutive integers just means in a row whole numbers. So we know that that first page is this unknown number, x. So you think of what and I'm a horrible drawer. So here's our book. So if this is page 5, then we know the next one in order, which what consecutive means, would be 6. But what if we don't know what that page is? So we're going to call that page X, but we know that the next page would just be one more. So we have our first page plus our second page, and we know that they add up to equal 79. So first page, second page. Now the questions I've seen on your tests is they'll say 2 consecutive odd numbers or 2 consecutive even numbers. So just remember, instead of x plus 1, to get to the next odd number we add 2. Alright, so we're going to put together our x's, subtract 1 from both sides, and then divide 78 by 2. So we get 39. So that means this page is 39, and then this page would be one more, so it would be 40. So let me do one that talks about this consecutive odd and even numbers. So it says the number of home runs by player A and player B for the season are consecutive odd numbers. Odd, it says integers, which means whole numbers, whose sum is 76. So they want us to determine the numbers hit by player A and player B. Alright, so let's just say player A is, we don't know. He did A. X. But we do know that they are consecutive odd integers in between them. So that means in a row. So if he did 3 home runs, then the B player would be the next odd number, which would be 5. But again, we don't know what this is. So we're going to call player A's X. But player B's is going to be the next consecutive odd integer, which in this case would be 5. So we're just going to add 2 to it. Now if it was even numbers, let's say player A had 2 home runs, to get to the next consecutive even number, we're still adding 2. So this formula works for both odd and integer, odd and even. So we have our player A's plus our player B's, and that equals 76. So we have 2x plus 2 equals 76. Subtract 2 from both sides. And x 74 divided by 2 is 37. So we know player A hit 37 home runs. Player B hit 39 home runs. 37, 39, because it was just 2 more. Alright, I'm trying to find some more that you'll see. So a rectangular field is 4 times as long as it is wide. And the perimeter is 460 yards. So they want us to tell what the dimensions are. So we have our length and our width, and we know the formula for perimeter. Perimeter equals 2 lengths and 2 widths. So we need to know that. Alright, so when I read through here, it gives us a little puzzle for long, or length, but it doesn't really never say anything about width. So usually what they say last is what we call our variable x. Now we don't want 2 variables in our formula because we don't know how to solve for 2 variables, but we do know how to solve for 1 variable. So if I make my formula in terms of x, which means that's the only variable we'll see, then we can come out with x equals, and then we can use that to find the other. So using our x, it says 4 times as long. So we don't know how wide it is, but we know that it is 4 times as long for our width. Now we're just going to put this back over here. So it told us our perimeter, and our length was 4x, and our width is just x, and then we're just going to simplify this. So this is 8x plus 2x. Put these together, divide by 10, and we get 46. So it says, well, what is our dimension? So this, if I look back at what I wrote, is our width. Our length would be 4 times that, which is 184. And then you can check yourself. You know, you have a rectangle. We know that these two sides are 46, these two sides are 184. If we add the perimeter up, it should equal 460. So there's a couple questions like that on homework 5. And we have a reduction with our original price. So let's see. After a 85% reduction, you purchase a DVD player on sale for $75. So they want to know what the original price is. So this kind of formula works for sales, taxes, but we have to remember taxes are always added, sales are always taken away. So X is our original price, and this goes for sales and taxes. So we know that our original price, and we take away our discount. Now our discount isn't 85 cents. It's 85% of whatever it used to cost, which we don't know. So don't forget your X here. And then we know that we paid $75 for it. So we want to simplify this. This is 1 whole X. This is taking away 0.85. So this is 0.15. 1 take away 0.85 is 0.15. And then we divide both sides by 0.15. And we get 500. So what a deal. And you can check yourself. take 500 times 0.85, and we get 425. So that is the discount. If I take 500, take away 425, it is $75. So they say the cost of living went up 3%. And they said that she got a 3% raise on her salary. And this year she's earning $27,160. So we need to know, what did she make last year? So X is her original last year's salary. And then we use what we just learned. Her last year's salary plus, because she got an increase, 3% of last year's salary equals $27,160. If I put these two together, I get 1.03 x's. And then divide those both by 1.03. Oops. And I get 26,368, rounding to the nearest penny, 93. So what you get should be less than what you started with, because this is what she made last year. She got an increase on that last year. And then here's a tax question. So it says, including tax, we paid $270 per night, and that included tax. So we want to know what the cost of the hotel is before the tax is added. So at X is our cost before tax. So that's our original price, plus sales tax is always added, and it's always 0.08 of whatever your original cost was, equals 270. So it's very similar to our reduction, except for this time they were subtracting, which is a discount, and sales tax is adding 1.08. And then we'll divide by 1.08. And we get $250. So again, it should be less. Alrighty. Alright, so if you have any questions, let me know. I know I kind of went through this kind of quickly, but you can always pause and rewind. There will be another video on the geometry portion of Homework 5.